Welcome to the HVAC-OLOGY experience, where we talk about all things HVAC industry, topics that are so hot, they are cool.
Okay, welcome to episode number 592. Wow, Kelly, can you believe that we've been doing it for this long?
I feel so old, Ryan Hudson.
No, it can't be 592. What episode is this, Kelly?
We are in episode 5, and if you haven't yet liked or subscribed to our HVAC-OLOGY podcast, you should do it right now.
Kelly, great job. And you said that in such a way that made me want to like and subscribe it. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. You should go like and subscribe if you haven't, Ryan Hudson.
All right, I'm going to be completely honest. I've already done it. I almost wrote a review, but then I was like, it's going to say Ryan Hudson in the review. And then it's going to say podcast by Ryan Hudson. So that would be shameless. But if I were going to write a review, Kelly, it would be about you.
Stop.
And how great you're doing.
Thanks. You know what? You're the natural here, but I'm just trying to be more like you. But I do have a question for you today.
Ooh, a question. And I am not prepared for this question if you're listening.
No, yeah.
Okay.
So I need to know
Mm-hmm.
if you could either speak 10 different languages or play 10 different instruments, which one would you choose?
Languages.
Tell me why.
I like to travel, and I would love to be able to. So you ever watch there's this YouTube reels that come on, and it's this like really dorky white guy, and he's in these like different places where there's Chinese people, and he speaks perfect Mandarin, and it always blows their mind whenever he does it.
That's fantastic.
I would love to do that because I think if I played instruments, it would be, it'd be pretty cool. But and I do play instruments if you haven't noticed that I play instruments. But but to be able to speak languages and like people don't know that I speak languages, because when I've traveled to other countries, I just know for a fact they're talking junk about me. But I don't know. I don't know for sure.
And you want to be able to know.
Yes.
You're right. Good choice. Good choice.
In fact, I was actually in Brazil one time, and I was in Búzios, which is an island off the coast of Brazil. And this guy was talking, and I did at one point understand Spanish pretty well. But in Brazil they speak Portuguese,
right?
Yes. So I was able to take enough to realize that he was talking about me, but I didn't know quite what he was. So I think you've actually unlocked a deep thing inside my heart when you asked me that question.
That's what my intention was, Ryan.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. So who is our guest today, Kelly Patterson?
Our guest today, I'm really excited to talk to him. And I have been trying to get him on here for a few weeks now. We haven't worked out the schedule yet, but it is Jeff Ghezzi from GPS Air.
All right. What is up, Jeff?
Hey guys, how are you? Happy to make it today. Happy to talk to you. Happy to be a part of this great podcast.
So, Kelly, you may not know this, but Jeff and I go back, I was counting yesterday, about 15 years, I think.
What?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yes. So in a prior life, Jeff and I worked together at a little place that has a blue oval called Carrier Corporation. Yep.
Did not know that.
True.
And I will say this, Jeff, do you know that within Carrier, you probably had the most butchered name I had ever heard?
Wait, did I mispronounce it?
No, you said it.
Fantastic.
Oh,
you were
so glad.
But there was an executive at Carrier whose name was similar to mine. And it would always get moved over to his name. So.
Yep. Everybody called Jeff Ghezzi.
Yeah.
Ghezzi.
Yep. And I don't even know how phonically you get to that with your last name.
I don't either. It doesn't look like Ghezzi.
Okay, GPS Air. Got it. So whenever you guys were coming up with that, did you not realize that acronym was already taken?
No, yeah, I think that may be why we put the air on the end. I think the GPS may be known, may be a known term. Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
I don't recall.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So tell me, before we get started into what GPS is and what you guys provide in the industry, tell me, kind of, Jeff, how you got from graduating high school to where you're at today, just that high level 5,000-foot view.
Sure. So in high school, right, pretty good at math and science, and had an uncle that was an engineer, and my dad thought that would be a good place for me to go. I didn't really have any idea what I wanted to do in college, and at first I thought that was the guy that drove the train. Yeah. But I ended up going to University of Connecticut, graduating mechanical engineering. From there, I went over into aerospace. I worked with jet engines at Pratt Whitney, a subsidiary of UTC at the time, and I worked probably a dozen years there. Kind of great experience from assembly and test out into working with airlines throughout the U.S. and South America. But over time, I was kind of interested in a more broad business background, and we've seen a lot of consolidation in the airlines, so it's pretty narrow, and that's what brought me over to Carrier. Worked in some product development, ran a couple of product development teams, and then into commercial service, where I had an opportunity to meet with you. Really a great experience working with different kinds of customers, being able to solve customer needs as part of a service group. And then ran into this whole idea of indoor air quality and GPS air. So to me, we'll talk a lot about the importance of clean water and the like, but clean air is something that doesn't get the same level of attention, especially pre-2020. So that became kind of fascinating to me. Allowed me to stay in the same kind of market of Virginia and the Carolinas, and moved over to GPS about 3 years ago.
Very cool. So that is a checkered past to get to where you're at today. Just listening to a story of engineering to jet engines to where you're at today. That's really cool.
Yeah, I think the technical side of any of the businesses is always kind of what's interested me, and that theme goes back to probably high school and why mechanical engineering at UConn was a good choice for me.
Very cool. So tell me, what is it that GPS makes? What is it that what is it that y'all build?
So we fall into the category of air purification. What we do is we make charged particles that are called ions, that will move into the space to actively clean the air. Now, these charged particles, these ions, they're created in nature. Anytime rushing water occurs, water crashes, you'll see a high ion count. And these ions, when they get into the space, what they do is they agglomerate onto contaminants in the air, and clean the air by pulling those contaminants out. So what we're trying to do, or what we do, is we take what happens in nature and bring these ions into the space to agglomerate on to small, could be pathogens, any kind of small particle that would affect respiratory health, and will help move those particles to the filter, help your filter be more effective, or drop them out of the air. So similar to the idea of clean air or clean water, we're able to clean the air.
So you said a lot right there. Maybe to just, if I can kind of break it down a little bit. So you have this product that is creating ions, and basically what you're doing is you are moving or adding electrons to a atom. Is that correct?
Could be a molecule, could be an atom,
Molecule.
and that's a good point, right? There's a couple of different types of ionization. What we do with GPS is we create what we call soft, or what's called soft ionization. So we'll add a static charge to particles. So by that, we'll have one of our emitters that almost works like an electron gun, and it'll shoot electrons at particles as they go through your HVAC system. As that particle picks up an extra electron, that becomes negatively charged. On the
Yep.
other side, it almost works like a suction pump, and it's going to pull an electron away to make that particle positively charged. Those particles then get into the space, and because they're negative and positively charged, they'll snowball or agglomerate onto small particles. Now, there is a different type of ionization called hard ionization. And a lot of times, if you look up a dielectric discharge, corona discharge, dielectric barrier type technology, what happens there is you actually break molecules into different particles. So you actually cause an air chemistry. In those cases, you can have a little bit of an issue because if you break oxygen, which is O2, into O, and then O connects back with O2, because once air chemistry starts, that chain reaction you really can't control. O3 is ozone. Ozone's great in the upper atmosphere, right? It's going to protect the earth from the UV rays of the sun. In the lower atmosphere, it causes respiratory issues, is very corrosive and very, very reactive. So it's important if you're looking at ionization technology to make sure that your products don't create ozone. And UL Underwriter Labs actually has a certification for that, where it's a UL 2998 certification, an ozone-free certification. And all of GPS's products are UL 2998 certified not to create ozone and to be safe.
Okay, so another way to say this is basically when you add an electron, so that's a negatively charged particle, and what that is as you add more electrons, you're actually making it negative, and so that's an anion, right? And then the positive charged ones would be cations, and so you're making both negative and positive particles, right?
That's true. And the
Okay.
reason why we do that is to take any electrostatics out of the space. If we only created negative ions, then anytime you touched anything that was metallic in the space, you get that little shock, that electrostatic shock. So that's why we make both positive and negative. And then they work together to continue to grow small particles, make them bigger.
Yeah, and so maybe to kind of sit there for a minute. So whenever you're making these negative or positively charged particles, what they're doing is they're attaching to other particles, which basically makes the particle bigger,
Like a
right?
snowball,
And so
right?
yeah, so they're like a Velcro or snowball, and as they Velcro together, as they snowball together, it makes it to where your filters, which we talked about in episode 1, have the ability to capture more particulates.
That's exactly right. The other benefit is these small particles, and when you talk about small particles, it's referred to as ultrafine particles, and those sizes are referred to in microns. So if you look at particles that are 1 micron and less, they don't really have any mass, so they don't move very well with bulk air. So a lot of your respiratory irritants are going to stay suspended in the air, not move with the bulk air, not move to the filters. So by us snowballing, agglomerating, attaching on, velcroing, I thought was a good word that you used, we're able to make those particles bigger so they do move with the bulk air better, your natural airflow, which will then bring them to the filters and allow the filters to capture whatever you're trying to take out of the air, these respiratory irritants.
And what are the respiratory irritants? Is it, a cold virus, or is it
Yeah,
a pollen, or what is it?
it's kind of all of the above. You'll see bacterias, viruses. We'll test on influenza, RSV, COVID. But a lot of hospitals, when they put our products in, they'll look at viable molds and viable bacterias to see how well we're able to pull that out. And that's kind of a benefit to the hospital sector, is they're able to take those molds and bacteria out of the air. It reduces the opportunity for someone to have or catch a hospital-acquired infection, which is a very important metric for the healthcare industry.
So
Absolutely.
I may be putting you on the spot a little bit, Jeff. I didn't give you this as something to think about, but how long have we known about this technology, the concept of introducing ions into indoor spaces? How long has that been around? Do you know, or an
I think,
idea?
yeah, ionization as a whole has been around since the 1920s. This idea of soft ionization and ionization to improve indoor air quality. That probably goes back, I'd say 20 years or so. GPS as a company, GPS Air as a company has been around since 2008. And our focus has been this idea of soft ionization and not having any air chemistry as a byproduct of our creation of ions.
And so that was maybe the problem maybe with creating ions for indoor spaces, that you had the potential to create ozone, and now we don't have that with the product you have. Is that right?
100% true. 100%
Okay.
true.
Cool. All right. Kelly, I feel like I just learned a lot. Did you feel like
Me
you're in
too.
I was in a chemistry class just now.
And a fun one.
Jeff, you had my attention the whole time.
Oh,
Congratulations.
I appreciate that. That's the goal.
Yeah. So, so let me ask you this. Does it matter where you introduce the ions as far as, okay, actually, let me reverse. I'm guessing you're going to want to put this somewhere within the HVAC equipment, right? On the air side of the equipment.
Yeah. So for the most part, we've got some products that fit in the space itself. For the most part, our products fit into the rooftop unit, into your ductwork. And the idea is we're going to use the fan, the airflow through the HVAC system to get these ions into the space, to actively clean the air in the breathing zone itself. So our products are focused on any type of HVAC equipment, and really the closer we can get to the space with our application, the higher ion density we'll see. The higher ion density we see, the better efficacy we'll see. The quicker we'll be able to take odors, pathogens, molds, and bacteria out of the air.
So that you hit on a couple of things I wanted to talk about. So there's a lifespan to these ions. So it really matters where you put what's your product to produce the ions.
Sure, as a rule of thumb, and it's sometimes difficult to judge. As a rule of thumb, we say we want to be within 20 seconds of the breathing space. Normally, you'll see ions. Our product is going to make 300, 400 ions per cubic centimeter. That's how it's measured. And our goal at the end of the day is going to be to get 5 to 20,000 ions in the space. So what happens between where we make the ions in the space is, one, we're making these positive and negative ions, right? So they're going to have like a magnet, right? They're going to have an attraction to one another. So they're going to cancel each other out. A lot of times also your ductwork is going to be grounded. So the ions will be attracted through this grounded ductwork, and they'll cancel out there, along with any air coming in, any contaminants in the air as it's in the ductwork. The ions are going to attach to that and cancel each other out.
So, so it matters where the product is positioned. I think that's a key takeaway from what you just said. And then you said something earlier that is a benefit, I think, to what you're providing, and that is odor elimination. And did y'all just kind of stumble upon that, hey, this is an added bonus whenever you guys were first designing this product?
I think we, through testing and we knew that it worked with odors. I think there's a lot of the science that we've learned since COVID. GPS, we brought on a chemist, a microbiologist, a physicist, to help us understand, not just empirically where we had tested and understood how the product worked, but to understand the science better behind it. I think the physicists and the microbiologists, they were able to help us understand that really particles or odors are nothing but small particles. So as we're able to take small particles out of the air, we're able to reduce odors.
So I have a question about that. And I don't know if you'll be able to answer it, but and it might not even be a practical application, but I worked in fast food when I was in high school. Yeah. And I always came home smelling like the French fry basket. So if a restaurant installed a GPS ionization product in their kitchen area, would it stop that kind of thing, or no?
Yeah, it'll reduce those levels of odors. We've got a bunch of restaurant applications. Okay. Casino applications, actually, maybe.
Oh, probably for cigarette smoke, right?
Cigarette smoke, yeah.
Wow.
It'll reduce that odor from the space. We'll see hospitality hotels use this to get rid of any unwanted odor. It could be mold, bacteria, even in these days, right, where cannabis in some places is legal. They'll use our product to get rid of that cannabis smell so they can turn the rooms over more quickly.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I actually had a friend of mine who had installed this in his house, and his wife comes home and she says, "What is going on?" And he says, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Why can I not smell any of my scented candles anymore?"
Yeah.
And so her scent,
What?
she literally could not smell her scented candles when she got into the house. And so he says now she doesn't bother buying them because the house doesn't smell like anything, and it's actually a money saver.
So we don't have that economic business case on our website. We've got a lot of interesting information on gpsair.com. Not that one, but you're right? The idea of ions being able to take odors out of the space, you can't direct them towards one odor versus another. It'll take that wet dog smell out, or if you're frying fish, like it'll reduce that odor very, very quickly. Also, the scented candles, they could struggle.
The good smells and the bad smells.
Yeah.
So I actually installed GPS at my house, and in doing that, there was a couple of things. One, I noticed when it first came on that we had a ton of dust. But then once we got rid of the dust, because the particles are coagulating, once we got rid of the dust, we hardly have to ever dust anymore. And then also and also the smell in the house, as far as like whenever you're to Jeff's point, I can be cooking whatever as long as that air conditioning's running and that particles are being produced in the air, you don't smell it, it's gone.
Yeah. You do need, and that's an important point, Ryan. You do need to have the fan on, right? Because ions are going to move with the air. So if the fan's not running, you won't get ions into the space, be it residential or commercial. But we do find a lot of advocacy that way. Maybe someone in your family has asthma or allergies, and they'll see a significant difference after they put ionization in their home.
So, Jeff, the new craze that seems to be coming in the HVAC world is something that's actually already been popular in Europe and then very much in Japan, is VRV. So, what is the solution for GPS whenever you're installing a VRV application in a residence or in a commercial building, industrial facility, whatever? What is the solution that GPS has for that?
So we've developed any of those small form factors are first of all great applications for GPS, because we had mentioned proximity to the space and that ability to increase ion density by being close to the space. If you're looking at a VRV system or a PTAC system or a high wall unit, all of those are very, very close to the space. And we've got one product referred to as a CI2 compact ionizer. That's about the size of a deck of cards. That has a self-cleaning mechanism that you would put into the VRV cassette. It goes down to even the 2x2 VRV cassette is really what it was designed for. This self-cleaning mechanism stops there from really being any maintenance, and the product takes up about 4 watts. So for end users, a lot of the facility guys like our products because it's a first cost product. Limited to no maintenance, there's no replacement parts, and from an energy standpoint, it takes the same amount of energy as an LED bulb.
Wow.
So I know it depends on the application, but and I'll save Jeff from this, but one of the things I want to make sure to say is that I have found that this product is actually insanely affordable too, especially with what you get out of the product, and the lifespan of the product is incredible as well. So to me, it's been a no-brainer add to just about any application that we have. It's a nice, I'd hate to say the word fail safe, but nice that it adds. It's a multiplier to your solution that you're providing.
The payback analysis, so we've got a few calculators you can do for payback analysis. And normally your payback analysis is going to be around the 2-year standpoint. We got some that are even greater if you think of the economics and operational savings. So there's really, when you look at GPS products, there's 3 different buckets, I think, where we add value. One would be this improved IAQ that we spent some time talking about today, particle management, pathogen management. A second would be energy savings and operational savings. A couple of different applications there. The ASHRAE standard 62.1, which determines how much outdoor air you need to bring into the space. There's a couple of different ways you can calculate that. One is a ventilation rate procedure, and that idea is you're bringing outdoor air in to dilute any contaminants that are in the space. Now that does assume that the outdoor air is clean air, which in different cases may not always be the case, especially as we're coming up maybe on a wildfire season again. So as opposed to this VRP method, you can use an IAQP method, which really looks at cleaning the indoor air. So instead of diluting, you're taking the contaminants out of the space. By doing that, you're able to reduce the tonnage of your equipment, and there's an energy savings afterwards because now you're using smaller tonnage equipment. So GPS has been very focused on products that satisfy that requirement throughout time to save money.
So maybe another way to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff,
Yep.
but when I used to design systems, we'd have to make sure that if people were in the space for a prolonged period of time, you'd have to have 15 CFM per person of outside air introduced into the space. So if you have, a church, for example, to where they're going to have this large people count, you have to be able to introduce a lot of air at that time. Or if they were what's called intermittent occupancy, to where you'd have to have 7.5 CFM per person. In other words, you're going to be in and out, moving around. And what happens is we're a bunch of folks in a space and we're breathing that air. We actually are contributing to that contamination. And then by introducing your product, that allows it to freshen up the air, if you will. Is that right?
That's true. Sometimes people will refer to that as almost the off-gassing of people, the ammonias and the kind of the human odors that you bring in. We're able to mitigate.
A while back, there were some studies that I had read whenever, and I think this is whenever I was looking into, what's that called that was really big? LEED, LEED. So that the amount of outside air that you would bring into a space allowed it to where people were more energized, to where they were more focused on their work and being able to produce because of the freshness of the air.
I think Harvard's done a number of studies that talk about your ability to think strategically, reduced anxieties, like by taking particles out of the air. So that the cleaner the air, the better cognitive functioning people have. I think kind of very similar to what you're saying.
Wow.
Yeah. Brain fog. Yeah, it helps remove brain fog. Very cool. Well, Jeff, is there a particular situation that you have been in to where you've been able to work direct with the end user and really able to just blow their mind?
Yeah, I think there's a number of, we've had a number of great customers throughout time. Some even before the pandemic. Certainly the product had become more popular during and after the pandemic. But if you look at places like Greenville County Schools or the Charlotte Airport, they've been using our products for years and years. There, they've been focused on reducing particles, also reducing any kind of odors. But more recently, we've had successes with a couple of military bases in the state, mostly thinking of local applications here within North Carolina, to improve the quality of life for service people. Again, taking odors out of the barracks, removing pathogens and the like from the barracks. And additionally, in the hospital sector. So I'd mentioned before, a lot of hospitals will use our products to take molds, bacteria out of the air, also protect their people. So some local hospitals will use our products in their ED department, emergency department, to protect their employees from people that come in with any kind of virus. You don't really know. It's an uncontrolled environment. So that I've seen them use our products from them, and then they kind of progress. So we also, our products can do a great job at reducing outdoor odors from coming in. So again, hospitals will use our products to reduce helicopter exhaust odors. So most hospitals are going to have a helicopter pad that invariably will be near the air intake of an air handling unit. If you take that exhaust into the space, the hospitals will get a lot of complaints about headaches and the like just from that type of exhaust. We're able to mitigate that kind of odor. And then sometimes I'll even use this in places like their soiled linen area. So I think with the hospital sector, Novant's been a big customer of ours. Like, it's been very rewarding to see the difference we can make in the environment of a hospital, in addition to other verticals.
Very good. So I think maybe to recap what you've told us, this is a product that really is a value add to any HVAC system, or it can operate on its own inside of its space to be able to clean the air, and to be able to do things like help you with dust, help you with respiratory issues, and then also to help you with cost savings as well.
That's true. That's true. I think Ryan, one of the big changes that we're seeing in the market now, I talked about clean water, clean air. ASHRAE's put out a new procedure, ASHRAE Standard 241, the control of infectious aerosols. And I think that's an important standard because it's really a fantastic effort by ASHRAE to focus on indoor air quality, and to help designers, to help facilities understand the best solution that's out there. Maybe some of the background of that is it allows us to determine if decisions that we made during COVID were good decisions, because it's very specific in the type of testing. It includes ionization, testing for efficacy, testing for safety. And as you see products qualify through ASHRAE 241, I think it'll help us understand what the best solutions are to keep the air clean, as we look forward.
And will ASHRAE make recommendations on products based on 241?
I think the specific manufacturers will follow the standards that are in ASHRAE 241. Gotcha. And have testing that qualifies under both gotcha. the safety and the efficacy. There is a calculator in 241 that'll help you understand how you can meet different levels of what they refer to as effective clean air.
Gotcha.
Very cool. Well, we have officially nerded out on this podcast. Thank you, Jeff.
I know.
For helping us get there.
Interesting, nerdy, but interesting nerdy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I found it interesting. Kelly, did you find it interesting?
I found it very interesting, but I am a pretty big nerd, so.
That's true. That's true. Kelly, so are you going to put GPS in your house now?
100%.
Mm-hmm.
I am actually, we're going to talk about that after the podcast closes, and how I need to get my husband on board with that, because he's also a little bit of a nerd. So
yeah, you guys can put it in one of your campers.
Right. We also have 3 dogs. So, we have a lot of odors in our house.
Man.
Good times.
Well, very good. Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for your time. And I found this podcast very interesting. I hope everyone out there found it interesting as well. And with that, that wraps up another episode of HVAC-OLOGY. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you. And be sure to like and subscribe.
Ellie, thank you for keeping me on track.
You're so welcome.
Oh, man. Oh, and 5-star reviews. 5-star reviews.
Oh, my gosh. Yes.
Yes.
If you don't like it, please don't comment. We don't need your comment. But if you love it, 5-star reviews. 100%.
Yeah, as Mama always said, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say nothing at all.
100%. Stay cool.
Stay cool.
All right.
Rocket past Saturn, things don't seem to matter much to me anymore. Got lost inside a daydream, get sick of all schemes they play on their machines. I lost so many words as I got older. in reality, no answers to cancer, we never got to talk. Lost so many friends as I got older. Wish I had the strength to hold you a little bit longer. Always meant to write these words down. Thought all the best of you, faded in an endless sea. But you always bring me back at your blue eyes. 20 years of staring at that freckle on your left shoulder. Who would have thought all I needed was to think of you to bring back the words inside of me. Get your blue eyes. 20 years of staring at that freckle